Today's topic is going to be covering something that I feel like all music makers, creatives, pretty much just anyone in general can utilize, and that is finding different sources of inspiration, new inspiration, just different things to be able to get inspired with. Um, and again, I think this is something that everybody kind of struggles with from time to time. I know that I'm always in search of new ways to get inspired and to, just seek out different ways to help out the creative bug. You know what I mean? So I thought this would be a good one. And it's a bit of a change up from the last few that we did that were more on the practical side. I think it's good to, interject some of these in there as well every now and then. So I got 3 articles. We're going to go over one of them today. And I believe we're going to do the disc makers one because I think the disc makers one is kind of a good balance between all three. It's not really like too in depth, but it's in depth enough that we can cover the points that they give. And there's a section at the end of the article specifically that I kind of want to dive into. And this one is called How to Find Musical Inspiration for Your Next Song. So this one specifically is about songwriting and creating songs and finding inspiration through that. The other ones that you'll be able to read in the YouTube replay are from Splice, which is 3 ways to find inspiration for your music. And there was one by Pirate Studios, which is the most in-depth one. So if you're looking for an in-depth read, definitely check this one out. It's called 10 Sources of Inspiration for Your Music. And that goes into some different interviews with other artists and, musicians on their experiences and gives you a lot of tips. But I think the Disc Makers one is going to be good for today. Just kind of keep it, pretty concise, pretty simple. So I'll go over kind of the introduction first, and then we'll talk about, like I said, the main points, which are towards the end of the article. It says, what causes creative blocks in music? There are so many things that can disrupt your flow when it comes to crafting great music. Negative feedback in reaction to something you've written can shake your confidence and make it hard for you to take your next creative risk. Being sick or exhausted can make it difficult to string together your thoughts or ideas in an expressive way. Major life changes. Moving to a new apartment, having a child, losing a job or landing a new one, losing a loved one, dealing with health issues. All of the above have potential to mess up your creative process. You find yourself falling off the songwriting horse. Don't fear and don't feel like you're alone. Creative disruptions happen to even the most successful songwriters. Identifying the possible roadblocks to making great music is a strong step forward and towards overcoming the obstacles. Diverse sources of musical inspiration. One way to avoid or overcome a writer's block is to have some go-to strategies in mind for finding inspiration. The biggest tip I can offer is to look within. Your memories, experiences, adventures, failures, hard-won victories, and tragic near misses. All of these can be great creative fuel for writing your next great song. Anything that makes you feel something real and powerful can become motivation for your next song idea. Another great way to go is to listen and learn from different sounds and genres. Are you an artist? Are you a jazz artist stuck in a rut? Listen to a whole lot of bluegrass and K-pop and see what ideas come to you. Have you been playing metal all your life but feel like you've run out of ideas? Dial up some Handel and Debussy, no idea what that is, or Irish folk songs. See where they take you. That right there, that part of the article, kind of reminds me of my beginnings in music production. So for those that don't know, I actually started making music after I graduated high school. So I went on a senior trip with my friend and artist named Jay Trey. We went to his aunt and uncle's house in Menifee, California. And one of the things I remember his uncle telling us was, if you're going to do music, because he had experience making music as well. So one of the bits of advice he told us was, if you only listen to one genre, it's going to be very difficult to become good at music production or just, get better at making music. It's good to, even if you don't listen to different genres every day, expose yourself to different genres and really kind of just see what the fabric of those genres is, a little bit of the history as well, and maybe just go back through the different eras of the genre, depending on how old it is. And I've found that has helped me out a lot. It's kind of diversified my palette musically, just being able to do that. And I'm still not somebody that dives into a ton of genres, but the ones that I gravitate towards, I try to do better at, kind of going back and checking out older music or just artists that I haven't heard before. And I'm always looking at new music that drops too, even if it's not in, a genre that I listen to on the day-to-day. So things like that can definitely help. So I really agree with that as well. Let's see what else we got here. Practical strategies to spark creativity. A great way to help jumpstart your creative juices is to create a space where you feel comfortable creating. For some, this will mean tie-dye wall hangings, lava lamps, and incense. For others, it's a minimalist room with nothing but your music-making equipment and a nice view of nature. Go with whatever makes you feel energized and ready to create. It can help to populate your creative area with tools that inspire you. Perhaps getting a variety of hand percussion instruments that you've never tried before will help you craft new grooves and then new songs. Maybe virtual instrument libraries like Museo can help you play around with sounds and textures you never have thought other. I can talk, guys. I feel like I do this every week now. I gotta mess up at least one or two sentences for it to be a normal stream. With sounds and textures you never would have otherwise discovered. I've actually never, still to this day, I've never really been able to craft like a perfect setting for creating. Maybe one day I'll be able to do it. Kind of slowly starting to build toward that now. I have a lot of ideas in mind, but I think it's going to be a project that takes, it could take 5 years, it could take 10 years, I don't really know. I'm not in a rush to do it though, because I kind of just want it to always be a work in progress. I think a lot of people kind of get their dream space in mind, and then they put a lot of pressure on themselves to get it done within a year or within 8 to 10 months or whatever it is. For me, I'm not really that pressed about it because I don't have a lot of gear, and I really have become good at creating in a lot of different environments too. So the environment itself doesn't really matter as much to me, but I know it can matter a lot to other people. What this brings to mind is a musician, artist who I'm a big fan of, who I actually had on the podcast, named Mad Keys. I don't know if you've ever heard of him out there, you guys watching. He does a lot of amazing social media content. He's a great music maker. Go check out his music. But his social media content and his YouTube stuff is incredible. And he did a video, I think probably in 2023, where he talked about, it might have even been last year, I'm not sure, but he did a video where he talked about the importance of having plants in his studio, like in his creative space. And it was all about what you can learn from having plants around, because you have to take care of them, you have to nurture them, give them water, sunlight, all that stuff. And it's a living being, you know what I mean? Plants are a living thing. So having those around for him helped him gain a new or unlock a new sense of his creative nature. So he made a video talking all about it, and I thought that was like super fascinating. And again, for him it's plants, but for you it could be something totally different. It's all about kind of finding what you want to surround yourself with that's going to bring good energy and good vibes. And that's exactly what this article is talking about. And again, that's kind of what came to mind when I was reading that. So, yeah, I think it's just kind of build out a space that is feeding you good energy. It's pretty much as simple as that. Maintaining a productive songwriting routine. If songwriting isn't coming naturally to you at any given point, it can help to remember that songwriting is very similar to sports. The more regularly you practice and integrate it into your daily life, the better you'll be. Olympic athletes don't just train when they feel inspired to. They pursue their passion doggedly according to a rigorous routine. If you want to excel at songwriting, it's worth trying to do the same. While discipline and routine are helpful, leave space for spontaneity. You never know when inspiration will strike. So make sure you have a way of recording or jotting down cool new ideas with minimal effort, even if they come at inconvenient times. I mean, this is the old adage of, you can't really become good at anything if you're just doing it once a month or once a week or whenever, you have time or whatever. It's like you actually have to dedicate yourself to the craft to an extent. Obviously, we have other things in life that we have to do. We have responsibilities. Some of us have jobs. But you have to carve out time every day to do something to help better yourself in your craft. And that's the difference between people that will stick with it and keep going for years and years and keep building upon what they're doing and what they're creating, and people that will just not see any progress or just give up entirely. And again, it seems kind of common sense for someone like myself who's been doing it for 9 years now. But if you're just beginning, that might be a lot harder to understand. But it's something to always remember each and every day, even though it's difficult to, sometimes find the time, or, if you don't feel like doing it, maybe you feel like doing something else. But we could go on a tangent about that forever. I mean, that's something you got to figure out within yourself. But it's saying that can also contribute to, the lack of inspiration. Maybe you need to push yourself a little harder. And that's not saying be hard on yourself, but that's just saying, get out of your comfort zone a little more creatively, and then you might see some better things start to come back to you. So just something to keep in mind there. And so now we are reaching this point of the article that has these steps. I think there's like 10 steps here, or 10 little points, and I want to go over these because I think these are all pretty good ones. It says navigating through creative droughts. So these are kind of like, getting through the roadblocks. It says writer's block stinks, but luckily there are tried and true methods for shaking yourself out of a creative block. Some of the below may seem simplistic, but give them a try and see what happens. So the first one is take a walk or do something else to get exercise. Really the past 2 to 3 summers, I have been going on walks as much as I'm able to, usually every day to some degree. I have a pretty long driveway outside, so I usually just walk in my driveway, or I go to walking trails. There's a few walking trails within a few miles of where I live, luckily. So I'll go there and just, go for an hour, just go walk through the trails. At least an hour I try to dedicate to being able to do that. This time of year it's hard because it is winter, and I live in a state where, the weather is pretty rough, so walking outside is kind of, iffy. I had debated on getting a YMCA membership at one point to use their gym. But if I was just using it for walking, I never was able to really justify paying that much just to walk. But you can walk wherever, really. You can get a treadmill, you can do laps in your basement if you care that much, just getting your steps in. To me, it's very important to be able to do that and to just get fresh air if you can, because and we talked about this before on the sunlight one and the sleep schedule stream, that your body, the natural cycle of just being able to get sunlight and just feel that energy and the warmth, and again the seasons kind of allow for different things. So the summertime, definitely try to do that. Wintertime, you might have to improvise a little bit, but try to be good to your body and it will be good to you. That's pretty much all there is to that. Next up is change your location and surroundings. Another thing I've tried to do in the last 4 years now is take trips, at least one trip a year, to somewhere else. And a lot of the trips I go on aren't even related to music. They're just trips to go see something new or go to a new place. Last year I went to Universal Studios in Orlando. Totally random, but I've never been there, and my brother suggested it that we go, and we did, and we had a nice time. We only went for 3 days. Just a nice little weekend trip. But I would definitely recommend doing that, just like getting away, even if it is for 2 to 3 days. It doesn't have to be a week. It doesn't have to be, half a month. If you want to do that, go ahead. Some people can't either afford to do that or they just don't have time to do it. But you can do nice little weekend trips and then come back, like leave on a Thursday or Friday, come back on a Monday. And you can still see a lot of cool things and do a lot of cool things. But again, I'm kind of sticking to the once a year thing. Like, I don't know where I'm going this year yet, but once a year, try to go somewhere that you haven't been in the world, in the country, in the world, wherever, whatever you can afford to do and whatever, time allows it. But definitely travel, and if you're able to, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to just constantly be in the same loop of doing things over and over again. And at the end of the day, the most inspiration you're going to get is from living life and just seeing new things. And that's really where that comes from the most. So I think traveling is a huge part of getting and gaining new inspiration for sure. Next up, we have make sure you're well fed and hydrated. This again goes back to the first one, which is taking care of your body, making sure that you are being good to yourself, remembering to eat, remembering to drink. I've pretty much been committed to drinking pretty much nothing but water. I mean, I still drink some different things here and there. I don't drink alcohol. I try not to drink a lot of dark colas anymore. I kind of cut those completely out of my diet, out of my life at this point. So even when I'm drinking caffeine, it's usually like Sprite or something like that. I drink root beer every now and then. But for the most part, I'm drinking water. Pretty much water throughout the day. I forget the amount of water intake you're supposed to have. I don't want to give any false information. But, kind of do some research on that. Try to drink more water would be a big thing. I think that goes a long way. And then, everybody's diet is a bit different. My diet is still not that great. I eat a lot of sugar. I eat a lot of salt still. So that's a bit, something I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to eat more fruits, more vegetables. And just kind of have more balance with my diet. So I can definitely improve in that area. And, again, that looks different for everybody. And some people have, different things, allergies, diabetic issues. You just have to figure out what works for you. But again, this is something that applies to just your life in general. It has nothing to do, well, it obviously has something to do with creativity, but at the end of the day, you should just do that because it's good for you as a person. And that'll just help you in your whole life in general. So yeah, that's a big one. That's probably the biggest one on here, honestly. Next up, we have talk to a friend or stranger. Um, yeah, I don't know about I don't know about talking to a stranger. I guess it depends on like the circumstances. I for one probably couldn't do that. I got a little too much anxiety for that. But yeah, just having you can have talks with people, introspective talks, or maybe just normal small talk. I'm not really a small talk person, but I'm more of a let's get a little introspective. Let's get a little deep per se. Let's kind of dive into some things that we probably wouldn't talk about on the day to day. But like I guess just seek out certain conversations and see what you can get from that, what you can gain from those conversations. Um, for me, I can't really just talk to anybody because I feel like a lot of people don't have a lot of things to give in a conversation. So I feel like you got to find a certain type of person to kind of match your energy a little bit, if you get what I'm saying. But I like that. I like that that's on here because I do think that a lot of powerful lessons can be learned, tools can be gained and shared through conversations, and they go a long way. And I would even throw listening to podcasts in there because those technically are, for the most part, those are strangers just having conversations. So even you listening to that can teach you a lot and really inspire you. I've been inspired through a lot of podcasts, even outside of my own podcast, just listening to other people's shows and just hearing their stories and the conversations they have is definitely super inspiring. So I like that that's on there. Next up, we have write music anyway, even if you think what you're writing is terrible. And that goes for producing too. You just pushing through, you know what I mean? Not letting yourself get tied down to a certain idea. And realizing that even if that idea isn't the best, you can always make another idea. So it's not like that's the last thing you're ever going to make. You know what I mean? You just got to kind of keep pushing through and especially in the beginning, the learning curve of trying to get better is a big thing that a lot of people kind of get caught up on. But I think once you can get through that and you become more comfortable with making not even just bad ideas, but just ideas that probably don't stick at the end of it all. Because I still make a ton of ideas that never really get used or never really get turned into anything big. But I'm just creating to create, and that's what I think is the most important part about everything that we do. So ask people you trust for feedback. Yeah, constructive criticism. Hopefully, the people you're asking are serious about giving you real constructive criticism, not just kind of, gassing you up or saying it's incredible or saying it's terrible. Like, hopefully they're giving you something in depth about the music. I actually just had someone yesterday. He's a guest. He was a guest and is going to be a second time guest on the show. And he actually sent me 2 of his songs to get my feedback on. So I tried to be as in depth as possible and just give him the reasons I liked both songs, because I did like both songs. I gave him kind of the reasons why and kind of like a strategy or what I felt I would do if they were my songs. But I didn't just say like, oh, these are incredible, like great job. Like I kind of gave it more in depth on, how I felt about it. So, if you're giving feedback to someone else, try to do that, I would say, and hopefully the people giving you feedback as well are going to do that for you, and to me that goes a long way. Reach out to someone you respect to see if they want to co-write something with you. I mean, yeah, collaboration is obviously a huge part in creating, and you never get more inspiration, I think, than when you're working with someone else, because you can share different perspectives and create something new from the shared perspective. So yeah, that's obviously a huge thing to do, go to a museum, see a play, watch a movie. I think I told you guys about the museums a few weeks ago, how I really enjoy going to museums, and I started going to a few over the last like couple years now. Obviously, movies is a big thing. I'm not really a huge movie person. It has to really catch my attention for me to go like to a theater to see a movie. But watching shows and movies is a big thing. Plays, a lot of people enjoy musicals and plays. I'm not a big fan of those personally, but whatever suits your preference, it's all art. It's all different forms of art. And it's different kinds of art than just music. So, yeah, those are big ones right there. Try writing music on an instrument you've never played before. I actually just heard an interview with this artist I've been really getting into named Chester Watson. He's a producer and an artist as well. And he talked about in the interview how he was kind of in a rut with producing. Like it felt like he was doing the same thing over and over again. And he said to kind of get himself out of the rut, he started playing guitar. So he learned how to play chords and do all that sort of thing. And then the music that he worked on from then on out, or at least those few projects after learning that, he kind of felt like rejuvenated and like he had a new sense of creative purpose in a way, because he felt like the music was getting better because he incorporated that new skill in there. And I definitely think that's very important. And I myself have not really done that. I don't know when or if that will happen to me, if I'll feel that kind of urge to kind of kick the, seat out from under me a little bit and kind of get into that. I'm currently on the wave of working with more instrumentalists, like people that are actually already masters of those instruments, and then kind of combining our styles. But to me, it's whatever works for you. I think it's just kind of being able to get those different perspectives creatively. And then, I think it always helps to do that, because you'll make better music and you'll probably just feel better about what you're creating too, which is a big thing. Set a timer for 10 minutes, see what kind of song you can write. One of my favorite streamers currently is Kalen Ellis, who is a producer, artist, all that good stuff. And every time he does a stream, usually he'll tell Siri to set a timer for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. And when he's doing when he's creating beats and new ideas, he'll challenge himself. He might do 15 minutes or 10 minutes and just see what he can get done in that amount of time. And I've heard that from many people, how that can, it's kind of like a lightning round of ideas where you kind of push yourself and the boundaries of what you can do. And because of the limited time, it kind of forces you to become more precise with your decision making, and it kind of forces you to be more selective with the tools that you have as well. And it almost kind of limits you, because you're not going to have time to go, play a whole section of chords and then add a whole bass line and do all this. It's like you might just have to open up a few sound packs and put something together. And for songwriting, I imagine it's kind of the same, but it's just with lyrics, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that's cool, just doing little lightning rounds to kind of challenge yourself and see what you can come up with. And then I think that just builds your muscle memory a little more every time. And the final one, it says, set up a microphone, dial up a simple beat and freestyle lyrics and a melody until you have something interesting. So basically just freestyling in general, which, if you're a producer, I guess you can't really freestyle. I mean, you could, it's just, kind of just making random ideas. But, I assume as a lyricist, that is another great way to flex your creative muscles and just kind of challenge yourself. One of my favorite artists is Lupe Fiasco, and he always talked about when he was learning to rap, he would go to like the corner store, pick up a magazine, and try to rap certain words. Like he'd pick a word from the magazine, a random word, and then he'd make a whole rap about just the word. But he would, on purpose, he would limit his vocabulary to make it more challenging for himself. And he would kind of just do that for years. And I always thought that was super fascinating. And it's like, well, no wonder this guy's so good. Like, he really put himself through that mental training to, like, pick just one word and say, you got to make a whole rap about this whole thing. So yeah, it's just things like that, but just finding your own ways to do it. Very interesting stuff. But that is pretty much the whole article right there, in a nutshell. So that one's cool, so definitely check that one out. And like I said, the other two, the Splice article and the Pirate Studios article, are also very good. So they'll be in the YouTube replay description. So definitely go, take a look at those. But again, I thought this one was something that applied to pretty much everyone that does anything creatively. So I think you're going to find value in this in, some way, shape, or form. So I was happy to do the research on that one and give you guys that. Next week on the 18th, we'll be back once again, and we're going to be talking about remote collaboration. So obviously I just touched on, the importance of collaborating with others. We're going to be talking about how to do that when you're not in person. Some of the ways that I've done it, and just some of the tools that you can use to collaborate remotely in a fairly easy way. Because obviously in today's day and age, not all of us live beside one another. A lot of us are states away, countries away, and we got to figure out how to make it work if we're trying to create songs. So we're going to be diving into that. I think it's going to be a really cool one. But thank you guys, as always, for tuning in, checking this one out. And yeah, like I said, check out that YouTube replay. All the links will be in the description, as always. But until next week, stay safe, stay positive, stay healthy. We'll see you on the 18th. Peace out, guys.